topic today is going to be, who can guess?
Pesach.
Of course. There you go. There you go. The topic today is going to be the holiday of Pesach. So it was in the 1600s, and you know, the Jews lived on the property, many of them, they rented lease from the pirates, from the squire, and they were hostage to the anti-Semitism and the viciousness of these pirates, of the squires, of the communities where they rented their property, inns, and they had farms. So the pirates calls in Moshe, who leased land, and he had a little inn, which was his income. He said, Moshe, I've had a terrible 6 months. The taxes have not come in. I've not been making enough money to sustain myself. I feel you're bringing me bad luck because you're a Jew. I need you to either move out or convert to Catholicism, and then I'll allow you to continue leasing my property. What is Moshe to do? He runs home to his wife. He says, Gittel, I have bad news. The pirates, the squire said that if we want to continue leasing the land from him and have our inn, we have to convert. No, what can they do? They're hostage. Few months go by, the pirates calls Moshe, who's now called Maurice, back to his home. And Maurice is thinking to himself, vay vey, what now? He calls him in, he said, Maurice, you've been a good Catholic the past few months. Business has improved, my taxes have come in, and I like you. So you know what, you want to be Jewish again? You could be Jewish again. He runs home to his wife, Gittel, good news. We can be Jewish again, we can be Jewish again. She looks up from her crocheting. She said, Moshe, really? 3 days before Pesach? So we as
Great
women,
story, great.
what happens to us? The fear of God goes into us. Pesach is coming. The transformation from the chametz, the leavened products, to the Pesach products, the ordering of the fish and the gefilte fish and the right cut of brisket, it brings fear into each and every one of us, the women, the balabastas of the home. So now, you know, it's 3,334 years since the Jews left Egypt, and right before they left, the night before they left, they celebrated the first Pesach Seder in Egypt. They roasted the lamb, they had the matzah, they had the maror, they had the charoset, and then they left Egypt. And from that day on, across the entire world, every Jew, man, woman, and child sits down at the Seder table. And we all eat the same foods, and we all eat the same matzah, and we drink the 4 cups of wine, and we tell the same story. Every Seder you go to, Moshe took us out of Egypt, the 10 plagues, the story of Paro, frogs here, frogs there, frogs jumping everywhere. Everybody, whatever Seder you go to, maybe this one's brisket is more tender, and this one's matzah balls are floaters, and this one's are sinkers, but everyone at every one of our tables is the same Pesach story, the same matzah, maror, charoset, right? Beautiful. Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you a question, something that I read in a talk that David Ben Gurion gave to the Peel Commission. The Mayflower, about 300 years ago, landed on Plymouth Rock. Okay, question, which port did it leave from? Anybody know? What year did the Mayflower leave? Anybody know? Which port did it arrive in America? Anybody know? What did they eat on the ship? Who was the leader? Who was the captain? Anybody know anything about the Mayflower here? One of the most monumental stories in our history is the Mayflower. But how come Nobody 300 years ago, a minuscule amount of time compared to the Exodus from Egypt, can tell you all the details of the Mayflower story. When it comes to Pesach, every Jew find a little kid, say, what's the manishtana? Manishtana halayla hazeh. What does it show you? That what is our secret to survival? What is our strength? That 3,334 years ago, something happened. And it continues to happen every single day, in every single year, every Pesach, in each and every one of our lives. That is our strength. That is the source of our permanence, continuance, and everlasting presence in this world. The Pesach story, the Pesach holiday, the Pesach energy. So today, I thought to myself, Pesach is coming. Let's discuss Pesach. And I thought I would take two approaches. One, the practical. We as balabastas, as women, how do we bring Passover into our homes? How do we make Pesach enjoyable, fun, exciting, interesting, inspiring? Practical suggestions, practical tips. And I'm going to count on you for that. And the second part of Pesach I want to share with you is how do we utilize this yontiv, this holiday, these seders, two seders, to transform our personal lives, to transform our perspectives, to transform ourselves. Because this morning, I want to share with you that the whole Pesach Seder, the whole Pesach experience is really a moment in time that we can change our whole reality. We can change our whole perspective. We can look at ourselves from a different paradigm, a different reality, and by that transform our families, our loved ones, our communities, and our world. So we're going to tackle it from two sides, the practical and a little bit of the esoteric, the spiritual. Of course, with Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, of course, what else? Hasidus, that's our hallmark. So before I begin, you say, but didn't you begin already? You know, the lecturer speaks for 50 minutes and then he says, and now I'm going to start my lecture. Why do you celebrate Pesach? Let's go around. Everybody tell me why you celebrate Pesach. It's not a trick question.
It's important to never forget from where you came from and how you got to this place moving forward as a people.
Does that inspire you?
Yes, very much.
Good, good. Okay. That wasn't a trick question, just asking.
Okay. Tradition, and it's sort of a glue this time of year that brings family together, even though it's going to be mostly Zoom this year. But it's something that we always know. Like when anything is planned for the spring, first question, when is Pesach? No, so.
Beautiful. So we have two things. Carrie spoke about the history, the importance, and Diane, you spoke about tradition. Dun, 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 dun. Anyone else want to share why Pesach or why you celebrate? Go ahead, Jane. Oh, I'm sorry. Jane, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. That was me. It's such a monumental holiday because it celebrates the gifts we were given of freedom and the calendar and the time, and what are we going to do with this time, and what are we going to do as a people and a world to continue using this time.
Very nice, beautiful. Anybody else? Celia, Margaret, Marcy, Rachel?
I was with Diane I'm with everybody, but the thing that came to my mind was the whole, okay, this is the time we get together, and the traditions and the everything is part of, we know what to expect. It's just a constant in our life.
That's beautiful. We depend on it. It's an anchor. I think, it's an interesting way of looking at it. It's an anchor. So everybody has a different part of Pesach that touches them. Tradition, history, family, freedom, good food. Can't minimize the good food of why we celebrate Pesach. And that's a really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way of looking at Pesach. So let's begin.
Sometimes we do it. I'm on it. Yeah. Sometimes we do it to bring new people into it who haven't been observing Passover. So while we're down in Puerto Rico, we invite Jews who wouldn't ordinarily be doing it. So
that's beautiful. So you are a Chabad house. You're an emissary. You have a little outreach program. Beautiful, beautiful. So yes, everybody shared a beautiful ideas of why we celebrate Pesach, which is just magnificent. So you see, whoever you talk to, Pesach is on our minds. Pesach is there with us. So I'm going to start with a very cryptic quote from the Haggadah. So the Haggadah, you make Kiddush, right? Mm-hmm. There's 15 steps. I call it the 15 steps of therapy. To do all the 15 steps today. So I'm going to touch on different parts. And it's really 15 steps, a process, again, of transformation, personal transformation. So after you make Kiddush, there's a very interesting line that pops up in the Haggadah. I'm sure you all remember this. It says, whoever is hungry, let him come and eat. Whoever is in need, let him come and conduct the Seder of Passover. So you're basically looking at this line, Kol dichven yetze v'yifsach. In other words, invite people to your Seder table, right? Whoever is hungry, come and eat. And whoever wants to come, join us for the Seder. Now, let me ask you a question. When do you invite guests for a dinner, for a Seder? After you make Kiddush, you go to your neighbor, oh, by the way, we're in the middle of dinner, but come join us. Or do you think people are hovering by your door and you open the door, oh, you were waiting for dinner, come on in.
I would say right about now, you would start to invite people. You better start thinking about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. You invited me so late, a month before Pesach. You didn't know 6 months ago you were making Pesach? Reminds me when I moved to Connecticut, I enrolled my oldest Chani in bicultural day school, and I was used to Brooklyn. You want a play date, you knock on your friend's house and you drop off the kid. So I call up one of the kids' family and go, can we have a play date? She said, sure. When were you thinking? I said, how's tomorrow? Tomorrow? So soon? She literally gave me a date in a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not Brooklyn. So when you invite people to your Seder, how does that God to say, go and invite guests? Really? You already made Kiddush. You sat down, the family, the friends already around the table. Is now the time to invite guests? Is now the time to say, let's see who needs a place to eat? What is the Haggadah saying here? Anybody want to share an insight?
Maybe just not for Passover, but all the time.
Okay, so maybe it's telling you that you have to be hospitable. Hachnasas Archem, the mitzvah of inviting guests, like Abraham and Sarah, with the four.
how about your ancestors or?
Very nice. You're inviting,
Yeah.
the ancestors. Elijah the prophet comes to the Seder, right? So maybe it's referring to the invisible guests.
What about people that you wouldn't normally invite, that you have to think who isn't present, who'd you miss?
Oh,
But on Yom Tov, you can't use the phone. You can't call up and say, oh,
No.
come over.
No.
So
maybe hungry for knowledge, not necessarily food.
very good.
I think that you just don't want someone Jewish, especially, to be alone on Pesach. One year we had so many people, I didn't know how we were going to sit them, and someone wanted to bring a girlfriend, and the first question is she Jewish? And when he said yes, I'm like, she has to come. There's always room, and we figured it out. So
It's beautiful, beautiful. So every answer here could be possibly correct. There's many commentaries. Nobody said anything that's like, oh my gosh. But based on what the theme of today's class is, who you're inviting? You're inviting yourself. Many times you come to a party, you come to a dinner, you even come to your own table, you're not there. You're there, but you're not there. You're not there because either you're overworked, you're exhausted, you're resentful, you're angry. Why did I need this? Someone else should have made it. Many reasons why sometimes you're not present. What God is telling us, make sure you invite yourself to the Seder. Make sure you're there. Make sure you tap into the energy and the tools that are going to come forth tonight in the Seder to transform your life. The first step is you have to be in the therapy session. You have to participate. You have to be open now to what's going to transpire this Pesach night and allow your soul, your neshama, allow God into your life at this Seder. That's the first step. So what the Haggadah is saying, all those who are hungry, come and eat. You, hungry, as somebody mentioned, for spirituality, hungry for transformation, hungry for a different way of life, a different way of looking at life. We're all stuck somehow, some way at different times in our lives. We get stuck. We get anxiety, we get depressed, we get unhappy, we feel lost. Midlife crisis, young life crisis, old life crisis. That's why it says, means the word Mitzrayim? It means Egypt, but it also means Meitzaru Gevul. You have to leave your limitations, your enslavement, the things that hold you back in life. Leaving Mitzrayim means leaving things that hold you back from being the best version of yourself, from being who you are meant to be, and also being in touch with yourself. Sometimes you're so surrounded by so many distractions and boundaries and limitations, you cannot thrive. You feel compressed. You feel like someone's sitting on your stomach. Like did you ever walk around with a pit in your stomach?
Mhm.
So this past week, I'm marrying off my daughter next week, God willing. In 10 days,
Yeah.
and I literally walking around with a pit in my stomach because the stress and the anxiety, it's like terrible. So I hope you can commiserate with me. Did you ever feel that overwhelming stress? Like, how am I going to get out of this? This is what it means. You're sitting at the Seder, you're inviting yourself to let loose and be open to transformation, to decompression. And now we can proceed with the Seder. Now you're here. Is everybody here?
Yep.
My husband always has a joke. You know why we're all here? Because we're not all there.
to actually be present.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about being present. I don't want to say it all now because we're going to address it in a minute. But also, please, dear friends, jump in if you want to add, say something. It's the type of class that's kind of a metamorphosis of understanding, as opposed to like A, B, C, D, So if you want to add something, please do. Don't be shy.
One of the things that's so meaningful to me and always has been Pesach is that we say that God saved me, not just my ancestors, but he saved me. And I don't know, it made me feel good. So to be part of it, it's like that you're part of the whole line. It's not just something that happened 3,000 years ago.
That's what Carrie said. Carrie, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
It touches you, inspires you that you're a chain of. So, okay, so it's an interesting thing, you make Kiddush, Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. You take the middle matzah and you break it in half. You break the bigger piece into 5 pieces and you hide that away, put that away for the afikomen, like in a bag. Some people have a bag that says afikomen. Some people have a Ziploc. Some people wrap it in a napkin. And it's put away for the afikomen.
Why 5 pieces? I never heard that.
Right. It's based on Kabbalistic. 5 pieces to counteract the 5 levels of severity. It's a Kabbalistic thing.
Huh.
5 pieces. So this is a cute story. My husband tells it at the Seder. So a guy broke his matzah in half, and 1 piece has to be bigger and 1 piece smaller. Okay? So, and he's looking which piece is bigger. So the Rebbe says to him, a gadol daf midaf mestin is nishkin gadol. A big piece that has to be measured is not a big piece. In other words, if you cannot discern right away which is the bigger piece, which is the bigger person, that person is no biggie. If you have to analyze, is that person really smart? Is that person really holy? A respectful person? If you have to measure it, you're on the wrong track. If it's not apparent, it's not there. It's not there. So the yachatz, you right away start with the Haggadah with breaking a matzah. Breaking a matzah, why? This is I love this insight. I'll tell you, breaking the matzah. So you break this matzah, and what is the theme? That right away at the beginning, you have brokenness. What is God telling us? You are not complete. You are incomplete. And that's your strength. You right away start with a half a piece of matzah, a matzah that's broken, because already the mindset is that God is not looking for perfection in you. Tonight, part of that whole transformative mindset is not now, I have to be perfect. I have to be exactly like this. I have to reach the epitome of heights. That's not what God looks for in us. You know what God wants in us? Our brokenness, our incompleteness, our desire to be better, but not that we have to be the best or perfect. How do we know? Very simple. Kabbalah asks, why did God even create us? What did God need us? We deny God. Some of us yell at God. We do our own thing. We're not interested in Torah and God. Why did God need the imperfect world? People sinning, people doing this, people doing transgressing. Why? Because God's greatest joy is seeing the imperfect strive to be perfect, strive to be better. I'll explain it very simply. I just came up with this idea. Your child takes their first steps. They fall, they get up. They fall, they get up. And everybody claps and you're taking videos. When your child plops down, do you say, oh, it's terrible? It's part of the walking. The plopping is just as beautiful as the standing up. That's how I would describe it. God is not looking for us never to fall, never to transgress, never to make a mistake. We are human beings. God created us with the faults, with the evil inclination, with the challenges, with the temptations. But the greatest joy is seeing an imperfect person strive to do better, not to be perfect, to do better. That's the message of the yachatz. God immediately tells you, transform yourself, but don't expect to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect. God is perfect. That's about it. Nothing is going to be perfect. There's always going to be imperfection. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty. It's our imperfections that make us who we are. The people who everything is fed to them in a silver spoon, they never had a challenge. Everything was done for them. They can't make independent choices. They can't think for themselves. And when they fall, it's the greatest tragedy because they never fell. But someone who has had a little rough and tumble, had a little challenge, had a little obstruction on their way, those are the most refined, beautiful individuals you want to be with, because they understand that perfection is not what we're looking for. We're looking for imperfection. It is our imperfection that allows other people into our lives. Because if you think you're the only one, try having a relationship with someone who thinks they're the one. And there's no one like me. And no one can compete with me. And no one is as smart as me, beautiful as me, rich as me, great as me. You want to be with a person who's perfect?
No.
Horrible, it's terrible. You're always looking over your shoulder. You always feeling imperfect because I can't compete with that one. She's everything. He's everything. God looks for imperfection. So we break that matzah. We invite ourselves to the Seder. We break the matzah, and already in our mind is, you know what? It's okay to have a broken matzah. It's still good. And we move on now. So the Pesach Seder is taking us from one point to the next point and creating an atmosphere of transformation, an atmosphere that effects change. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Does anybody want to add anything as we move on? And I'll share a cute story. Anybody heard of the famous author? He was a child's author. He was a poet. I want to get his name. I forgot his name. Alan. Hold on. Thank God I have my notes, huh? Alan Silverstein. Anybody?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I think Alan's, no, continue.
Al?
No. So remember, he writes the story of the circle that's missing a corner, like a triangle. Anybody remember that story?
Looking for the piece, the missing piece.
Yes, he's looking for his piece. So I'll just sum up the story. It's a beautiful children's story, but really a very deep story. So the circle is missing a piece, so it's not complete and it can't roll as nicely, right? Because it doesn't have its piece. So it's rolling through town looking for its missing triangular piece. And every time it thinks it's found it, it doesn't quite fit in. And along the way, he meets a butterfly that lands on his back and they have a whole chat. And then he meets the flowers and the trees and the animal kingdoms and a little worm. And it's beautiful. And he gets to meet so many interesting interactions during his search for his perfect piece, his perfect circle. Finally, he finds the piece. It fits right in. And now he can roll as fast as he wants. And he's rolling and rolling and rolling. And he's so fast, like rush hour. He can now go 90 miles an hour. But then he realizes he's going so fast. He's turning so quickly, he has no way of meeting anybody. He doesn't get to go back to the moment when he met the butterfly, the worm, the flowers, the little dog, the elephant. Perfection is not always what it's meant to be, because in the imperfection is when you get to pause and see what really matters, what really counts. Sometimes you're so perfect, you don't need anybody. You're rolling through life so quick. Do I even have a friend? Did I even make time for family? So yachatz, exactly that. We break a matzah because it's the incompleteness that allows us to really experience life and appreciate others, and others appreciate us.
It's so interesting because I'm sitting here thinking in the way the world is seen, how people should be is that it's not okay to be imperfect, that everybody has to be perfect and strive for perfection. And it's comforting to know that that's an okay thing, that you're not supposed to be perfect, that you're like a work in progress.
Exactly, and that's what the Seder is all about, by the way. That's what the Seder is all about.
And I think we're also needing to look at ourselves in the same way that we look at and the way we are with our friends and our family. For example, if we say, my friend is upset because she did something that she perceives as wrong or not perfect, I say to her, you know, hey, you're human, right? But that's the first thing that they say to me. So it's like we all have to realize that this is just life. I mean, right? I mean, this is for all of us. We have to remind ourselves that everything's not going to happen the way that we think it should, and we just have to realize that we try better next time, or we just accept it. I mean, we're not murdering anybody. We're not doing, you know, things that are horrific. But if we're not perfect, then it's you know, and I'm like one of the first ones to really be hard on myself about things. So I understand that.
Right. Exactly. So one of the numbers, one of the popular numbers in the Haggadah and in the Seder is what number?
4.
Excellent. 4 what?
Wow.
4 cups of wine.
Wine. What else?
4 questions,
4 questions.
The 4 children.
4 children,
One
Children.
more 4. 4 expressions of redemption. Ve'hetzesi, ve'ga'alti, ve'lakachti, ve'havesi. God says to the Jewish people right before they leave Egypt, I will take you out, I will deliver you, I will redeem you, I will take you to myself. So 4 is a very popular number in the Haggadah. Why? What's the number 4? For think back in time. What were there 4 of? Founding,
oh, mother,
Isaac and Jacob. Yeah.
the matriarchs,
Mary,
Sarah, Rivka, Rebecca, Rachel, Rachel,
Leah.
Leah. The whole foundation of Pesach, of the Exodus of Egypt, Yetzias Mitzrayim, is the Jewish woman. The whole Pesach, the feminine energy of Pesach is the Jewish woman, the number 4. Because we are the foundation of the universe and foundation of the home, which is a microcosm of the universe. And as it says in Mechilta, which is a medrash, B'schus nashim tzidkaniyos nigalu aveseinu mimitzrayim va'asidam lihigalam, that it was in the merit of the Jewish women that we were redeemed from Egypt, and our future redemption, the 3rd holy temple, the final redemption, will be also in our merit. Big responsibility for us. So as we discussed many, many times, that it was because of the Jewish women that the Jews even left Egypt. Their self-sacrifice to have children when their husband says, no, 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 let's abstain. Remember the story?
Yep.
It says 3 things. They didn't change their names in the land of Egypt. They didn't change their dress, le'shinua shimam, levusham, and they didn't change their traditions. Even in Egypt. And because of the faith of the women and the strength of the women, the entire nation was taken out of Egypt. And when you read the story of the Haggadah, everything is 4 to remind us that why are we here? Why are we able to sit at this Seder table is because of the Yiddish mama, the Jewish mother, the Jewish baba, the Jewish sister. And also let's talk practically, who really is the anchor of the entire Pesach Seder? The women, we set the tone. If you are in a good mood at the Seder, if you are smiling and happy at the Seder table, if you are saying, wow, this is amazing, guys, we're gonna have so much fun tonight, everyone is gonna feel that energy. I know when I'm in a bad mood, the kids run for the hills. Everyone is in a bad mood. Mommy's in a bad mood, we're all in a bad mood. So we set the tone for Pesach. We set the tone. That's why it's so important for each and every one of us to go get the pedicure, the manicure, a beautiful, gorgeous outfit. Beautiful husbands, please buy your wife a beautiful piece of jewelry every Pesach. Thank you very much. And don't forget the flowers. And set the tone for the entire Pesach Seder. But if you're grinding maror and you haven't left the kitchen for 3 days and your hands are red from peeling beets because you didn't have rubber gloves and your kids, and you didn't put the guests, the kids, the neighbors, and your housekeeper to work, you are not addressing Pesach in the correct manner, ladies. You must create an atmosphere where you're sitting at the Pesach Seder. From the very, Shabbos, I'm never at the table. Why? I'm always, I gotta bring the food, cut the food, set the food, salad. The Pesach Seder, I never leave the table. Because we are the foundation of the whole Haggadah. I'm in the Haggadah, I'm the star. I'm gonna be in the kitchen. Someone else should be in the kitchen. So we set the tone for Pesach. So we actually have a personal obligation to ourselves to delegate, give out jobs. I always hang a paper on my refrigerator. The kids wake up, oh, did you check off your job? Thank you very much. And give everybody a job. And you know what? They're going to enjoy the Seder much more because they helped. My son loves to boast that he ground down the maror. And my other son loves to say that he peeled. Everybody gets a job, then the whole family. And if you don't have the kids, you recruit your guests, your distant relatives. Everybody must help out. This is called a practical tip, everybody. The Seder, you're happy, you're joyous, you're not resentful. Yeah, I slaved 4 days in the kitchen. You know what the kids are going to say to you? I'll tell you what they told me when I do that to them. Who asked you to? We never asked you to. That's what they tell me, my kids. I'll never forget one Pesach. I got up like 6 a.m. and I cooked away, and I was like, I don't know where I got the energy. And some of my teenage kids were home, and they had a good sleep. They roll out of bed 11 a.m., and they come running. And like half the meal was already cooked, the table was set, and they go, Ma, why didn't you wake us? Why didn't you wake us? And I'm not so proud of myself, but this was one of my proud moments. I said, guys, I was so excited to cook. I was so happy to do this. It gave me such a thrill that I didn't want anyone to disturb my high. And that Seder that night was dynamite. Everyone smiled. Everyone was happy, including myself. I felt good. I felt happy because you have to go to the Seder in a happy mood. If you're going to feel resentment, please don't make the extra gefilte fish. Please buy it in the store. Kosher LePesach. We are obligated, each and every one of us, and I'm going to tell you this is a mitzvah, to pamper yourself before Pesach. Beautify yourself before Pesach. Come to that Seder table dressed to kill. Don't forget the new outfit. Wherever you want to go, Mitchell's, J. Crew, whatever, H&M, I don't know, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, Neiman Marcus.
Bergdorf.
Make sure that you feel like you are free. Freedom is looking at yourself in the mirror with your new lipstick and your makeup and your manicure and wow, now this is freedom. Freedom is
Wow.
Excuse my potato stains, ladies, but I've been in the kitchen for 6 days. No. No one's going to look at you like you're free and say, oh, yeah, look at her. So I want to mention so strongly that the feminine energy is not only in the esoteric, we light the candles, we bake the challah, oh, we're so spiritual. It's also in how you look and how you feel about yourself. If your hair is done, your makeup is on. If you like to wear makeup, let me not tell you to wear makeup if you don't want to wear makeup, but you understand my drift. Take time to put yourself in a mindset where you're going to enjoy a Seder. If you're going to be smiling, I guarantee you, every one of that Seder is going to be smiling. The hostess sets the tone. I cannot stress that enough. How important it is for us to tap into our feminine energy and feel good and happy with ourselves. And then your soul will be able to enjoy the yachats and all the other things we're going to discuss in a few moments. I want to share you one more little thing. So it was Erev Pesach, the Seder was that night, but I was ready. I don't even know how. It was with the synagogue Seders and my Seder, and I love to read. So I went to the Westport Library, and I went to take out books a few hours before the Seder, and I meet someone, a Jewish woman from Westport. She says, you know that tonight is the Seder, Freida.
Really?
The library? I said,
Yeah.
yeah, I love to read, and it's going to be 3 days. That year, Pesach went into Shabbos, and I can't imagine that when I have a little free time, I won't be able to grab a novel. You're going to have a free time with 11 children, 2 Seders in the shul. I said, yeah, why not? My kids help. When they're working, I'll be reading. And, you know, I'm not trying to say how great I am. I'm trying to say you must take some time. If you don't breathe in, you can't breathe out. And I was the happiest person that Pesach because I did something that I wanted to do. One year, I loved to rollerblade, not anymore though. So Erev Pesach, I would rollerblade to let out a little stress. So someone, a guest, came to bring a bottle of wine. They're looking for me. I'm rollerblading. The Seder's coming. I need to get out of stress.
I can't even believe it.
That's it. So if you do for yourself a little bit something that you like, I'm not saying get on your rollerblades. That was a little extreme. Come on, but I enjoyed it. So whatever. 1 year, you know, I guess that's what happens to you when you have a lot of kids. You go a little crazy, you know. But my point is, take time for yourself. Whatever makes you feel good, do it. And then when you come, trust me, your soup will taste better. Your chicken will taste better. Everything's going to taste better because you're going to be feeling good about doing it. Because you did for yourself too, which doesn't mean you shouldn't cater your meals, by the way. You can go cater. Nobody has to slave. I'm just mentioning. Mm-hmm. So that's also part of the feminine energy of Pesach, that we set the tone. If you want to set the tone for yourself and your family and your guests, you have to be in a good place. You have to be in a good place. That's a very, very important part because it is in our merit that the future generation will be redeemed from this exile. Our merit, that's a responsibility on us. So grab your tambourine, put it in your luggage. Remember the story of the tambourines?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's move on. Does anybody want to add anything about how they pamper themselves before Pesach?
I hire staff usually.
And you know, I love that, Diane. That's my dream, for someone to sit and peel the potatoes for me. I hate peeling vegetables. It's like I love staff. That's a good idea, Diane.
Just someone to serve and to clean, help me clean beforehand because it's too much. And I don't have a lot of other help. You know, some people do have help, but
yeah,
hey, my kids don't want to, my daughter.
We'll discuss more practical tips on Pesach. And if you have any questions on how to transform your home into a Pesach home, I can help with that. Actually, already started. Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so we're all very close friends here. So I'm going to be honest. This is the first time in 31 years, no more than that, that I'm not holding Pesach in my own home. I'm going to be by my mom's.
In her house?
Yes. So I have to do it there. And it's going to be challenging. And we're going to Zoom a lot of relatives. And she's having surgery. So anyway, I'm just going to be down there. And so it's going to be challenging. I don't know how I'm going to do it all, but I'll figure out a way.
In your home or in your mom's home? You don't know how you're going to do it?
My mother's home. My home, I've got it down. I know just what to do.
So I'll give you some ideas. You have to get your mother help. You have to go down there one day and have everything delivered and have that person help you get your mother's house ready for Pesach. I know because a sister-in-law of mine does that every year for her father in Florida. She flies down and she gets a lot of help and gets that house ready. Listen, Pesach is very time-consuming, very labor-intensive, very labor-intensive. But it's so funny because every Pesach, I clean my entire house, every closet, every drawer, we vacuum, we polish, we spring cleaning. And my kids laughed. They go, "Ma, nothing was in that closet." I said, "You know what? It's not even that there were crumbs in the closet. It's just I like it. I like saying I'm cleaning for Pesach because every closet gets purged. And then when Pesach comes, I'm like, wow, my house is spotless. Otherwise, you think I'm going to clean if it's not for Pesach? Really? Am I ever going to take from the back cabinet? I'm never going to even look in there. But Pesach, I got to clean for Pesach. I even have a checklist. Husband's briefcase. Freida's pocketbook. My coat where I smashed in the cookie crumbs. The couch. Let me ask you an interesting question, because this is a relationship question, then we'll move on. Let me ask you, every single crumb has to be eradicated from the house. Every little crumb. Wherever you thought you might have some cereal, whatever. But let me ask you, does God really care? Does God really care if there's a breckle under the fireplace?
Yes.
What happens under what you find in your knapsack? Little pretzel.
No.
But yet it says in the Torah, you're not allowed to have even a crumb in your house for Pesach. So God does care. But why? They're all in America, they say, don't sweat the small stuff. But in Judaism, you'll notice it's all about the small stuff. Every crumb has to be burnt. And you even say a prayer that if God forbid, I didn't find every piece of bread and crumb in my house, may God forgive me. And may it be sold. That's why you sell your chametz, by the way, to the rabbi. If you're not fully capable or able or not there yet, where you can transform your home, at least fill out the form where at least during the week you're not owning it, you're selling it to the rabbi. It doesn't cost money, by the way. Because I remember calling a friend saying, did you sell your chametz? She says, I can't afford it this year. My husband was laid off. I said, it doesn't cost money. The rabbi takes all the forms which say that I hereby transfer all my chametz products, dishes, pots to this non-Jewish person. And right after Pesach, the rabbi buys it back from the non-Jewish person. So in essence, there's 8 days of Pesach, you're not owning the chametz. At least you're not owning it. You may not be so religious yet. You may not be so into it yet. You may not be there yet. It might be too difficult for you. That's not the way you do things in your life. It doesn't matter. At least you don't own it. You don't own it. So we said with God, yes. Because let me ask you a question. If you're in a relationship with a husband, a friend, this can be applied to anybody, whether you're single or married. When was the last time you argued with your better half, other half friend about global warming? When was the last time you spoke about inflation and had a big major fight? What do we argue about the petty things? You didn't leave me the car keys and now I was stranded. I couldn't get into my office. Why didn't you pick up the cleaners? You know I needed that dress for tonight's cocktail party, honey. Can't you take out the garbage 1 day a week? I gave you a grocery list. The one thing I needed, you forgot the tomatoes. We argue about petty. We argue about crumbs. We argue about silly things. Remember the time 10 years ago when you forgot to give me a birthday card? You don't argue about endangered species in Alaska or the pipeline from Canada to America. Well, you know, it doesn't even come to mind. You argue about the silly things, the ridiculous things. You're always late. So relationships are about the crumbs. Relationships is about a little note you put in your husband's briefcase when you pack the lunch. Honey, I love you. Don't forget to come home early tonight. Or the little flower he leaves on your pillow because he loves you. It's all about the little things. Or the friend that brings you a hot Starbucks when you think you're going to faint and you were dying for a coffee. It's always about the little things that change your life. So by eradicating every crumb, it's building a relationship with God. This is how we connect. God said, no chametz, no chametz. Yes, it is about the crumbs in life. It is about the crumbs. It is about the little things. It is about choosing the kosher item over the non-kosher item, because that's the relationship we have with God. God asked you. It's like your husband hates Chinese, but on his birthday, you take him for Chinese because you love Chinese. Then it's about you. He likes Italian. Why didn't you make a reservation in Italian? Oh, because I don't like Italian. He likes Italian, but it's his birthday. So it is about the small things in life and in our relationship with our families, our friends, our spouses, and with God. Again, we're imperfect. There might be a crumb in your little fireplace. Don't worry. You sold your chametz, you tried your best, but you tried your best too. That's what matters. That's what matters. So now we're going to talk, there's two more areas. I don't have enough to touch both. We could talk about the 4 questions, which are really the Manishtana, or we could talk about the 4 children. What intrigues you more?
Children.
The children? Anybody else? You know what? Do you mind if I do the 4 questions? Because I'm thinking.
Yeah,
It's up to you, Freida.
the
Whatever
4
you want.
questions.
It doesn't matter, whatever you want.
No, I just, okay, I hope that, okay, that, well, and we'll try to also get to the I think it's really going to be connected. So I have an interesting question for you. Let's all do it together.
Manishana halayla hazemi ko halelo.
What does that mean?
Why is this
Why?
different?
Why is this
Different.
night
Different
different
than
from all
other.
other nights, right?
Yep.
So that's the question. Who asks the questions? The custom is, the tradition?
The youngest child. The youngest child.
But in like in Chabad tradition and in many homes, not only every child asks the 4 questions, every adult is obligated to ask the 4 questions. You know that?
No.
Though we might highlight the children at the Seder table, every adult must read it and ask it to the Father in heaven. And how do we preface it? The custom is to preface the 4 questions with these words. Father, I will ask you the 4 questions. Because you're not only asking it from your father, your physical father sitting at the Pesach Seder. You're asking it from the Father in heaven. So that's why when I was growing up, even when I was married, we would all ask the 4 questions in Yiddish and in Hebrew. And we would preface it with, Father, I want to ask you the 4 questions. And at the end, we would say, Dad, Father, I asked you the 4 questions. Now I would like an answer. Who are we asking? Almighty God. God, Father in heaven, I asked you the 4 questions. Now please give me an answer. But look at the 4, what we call the 4 questions. To me, it looks like 4 answers. So where are the questions? There's only 1 question. Why is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights, we dip once. On the night of Pesach, we dip twice. Karpas and salt water, morer and charaisis. Does that sound like a question? You answered the question. The second, and people read it in different orders. I'm giving you the order from my home. The second question is, why on all other nights we eat bread and matzah? On this night, we only eat
Matzah.
nights. Does that look like a question? It looks like to me like an answer. You're answering why it's different. Now the third one, on all other nights we eat all kinds of vegetables. On the night of Pesach we only eat maror. And the last question answers, on all other nights we eat sitting or reclining. On the night of Pesach we only
recline.
How are these called questions when they're really answers? They're answering the question of how this night is different. It's different because we dip twice, we eat only matzah, we eat only maror, and we recline. So that's my question to you. And the other question is, why is it the children asking the question? So there's a little duality. One is because I said that when you ask the 4 questions, it's everyone has to ask because we're all children. We all were born from a mother and father. And also we're also asking Father in heaven. But also think for a moment back in time when you were a child. Back in time, does it evoke warm, cozy feelings of childhood, of being loved, embraced, nurtured, hopefully?
Yeah.
So part of the transformation is taking ourselves back in time when we were children, when we were sitting with our mother and our father on the sofa in their loving, warm embrace, a moment in time when we were innocent, pure, happy, nurtured, loved, before the time that life hit us. Trials and tribulations came our way, challenges, addictions, abuse, anger, unhappiness, destructive forces in our lives. Before all that happened, can you go back in your mind to the moment when you were that child? Back in time, pure, innocent, nothing can hurt you because you were just a little kid in the embrace and love of your family. And hopefully all of us had that experience. So what's happening here is the Haggadah, God is bringing us back to the moment when we were so pure and innocent. And part of this evening is take yourself back to when everything was the way it was meant to be. Because if you can envision yourself as that child, innocent, loved, embraced, and you could peel away all the layers that happened and burdened you and held you down, and you could go back, then you can use that moment when you envision yourself as that innocent child to propel yourself now out of all the things that have happened and continue to happen. All the pain and unhappiness and things that keep happening to us. Everybody has something that they're unhappy. Everybody has something in their life that didn't go the way it was meant to go. So when we ask the 4 questions and we say Tata, and we think about it, what you're really saying is, I am now looking at myself the way I was meant to be. Loved, embraced, pure, innocent. And now I can rebuild my life from that point. That's why everyone asks the 4 questions. It's not only for the children. It's each and every one of us because we're all children. You know, whenever I visit my mother, I'm just going to underscore the point, I feel so loved because everywhere else, I'm the mother. I have to always be the mother. You know, I was very blessed because my mother had COVID. And now with the wedding, I'm literally in New York every other day with the gown fittings and don't ask, you know how it is. It's Meshuggah. And my mother lives in Brooklyn, so she's my base. I go there to grab a coffee and I go there to wash up and I go there to rest for 10 minutes. And whenever I go there, my mother is home. She's so loving. She's such a mother to me. Like I'm feeling like that's what I need. I need the nurturing. I'm such a nurturer. I don't have time to be nurtured.
Is she okay?
Oh yeah, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. She recovered.
Great.
Oh, glad. Baruch Hashem.
So that's what. Am I making the point that when, right? You're putting yourself in that moment when you are the child, without all the obligations and all the responsibilities. And that helps us again rebuild to the next step of where we should be. Let's see if I have a few minutes to share. So there's more to share, but it's 11 o'clock. So I thought to myself, let me end off with a story. Is that okay?
Sure.
I'll end off with a story about Pesach. And there's a lot more to say, obviously, But what I think we glean from everything, I hope, is that Pesach is a time for us to tap into that unbelievable energy of transformation. If you have time to understand a little bit of what's happening in this Haggadah, that it's not only about the matzah balls and the reading, it's about really you taking time for yourself and analyze, where have I been this year? Where do I want to be? And it doesn't hurt to drink 4 cups of wine and get a little tipsy, because it helps you relax. And then you could see yourself again in a different light. And be a little self-absorbed in what can you get out of Pesach? How can Pesach affect a change in your life? Because remember the rule, you cannot change anybody else. We all try, you know, we all have people we're trying to rehabilitate. You could only change others by changing ourselves. So if you leave this Seder with one transformation, with one insight about yourself, that will be the greatest exodus of all. The greatest exodus. Take Pesach, look at it now from a whole different paradigm, that it's a moment to tap in, what do I want for myself? How can I be the best version of myself, the best imperfect version of myself? And that's why matzah symbolizes humility, bread symbolizes arrogance. Bread rises, matzah stays flat. Matzah is symbolic of humility because, and part of the Pesach transformation is you cannot change if you're not humble. Arrogant people, it's never my fault. It's always your fault. It's always about what's good for me. It's never about what's good for anybody else. Humility doesn't mean I'm a shmata. Okay, everybody step on me. Humility means you know your strengths, you know you're important, you know you matter, but you allow other people also to matter. That's matzah. You know, matzah is not, oh, I'm a shmata, I'm never going to be anybody, I'll always be a nobody. That's not humility. Humility, no, you know, I'm a smart lady, I'm a strong woman, I'm a beautiful woman, I'm a kind person, I'm a good person. But you know what? There's room in my life for all of you too, because I'm not so arrogant that I can't admit that I made a mistake, that I can't say I'm sorry when I yelled too loud at my kids for mixing up my meat knife with my milk knife. That's what matzah is, humility. And that's why, just quickly, matzah and chametz. Chametz means bread, matzah means matzah, are spelled exactly the same way except for one letter. Chametz has a ches, you know how a ches is, it's like a, right? It has an opening on the bottom, right? Chet, it's like a square open bottom. And matzah has a hey. How does a hey? Okay, with an opening on top, right? A little peephole and a peephole on the bottom, right? Mm-hmm. You see, what's the difference between chametz, arrogance? There's only an opening on the bottom. The person falls, the person is arrogant, the person is angry. They'll never go back up. They'll never apologize. They'll never admit. Once they're down, they're down. It's always about them. Matzah, somebody who's humble, you fall, you make mistakes. You could even be arrogant at times, but there's a little hole on top. You always judge yourself, evaluate yourself, look at yourself, and come back when you realize you made a mistake. Otherwise, the ches, the arrogant people, there's only one opening. They never come back. It's always about them, their way or no way. What I want, what I need, I'm the best. There's nothing else to talk about. Matzah teaches us, we have moments when we are self-absorbed, arrogant, but we always have a hole on top because we're humble. We use a way back from those moments that we're not proud of. And that's also part of the whole mind process of Pesach. It is our humility that allows us to grow and flourish. And though for the quick story, So I was at a Shiva in Wilton. Family from the conservative temple. I knew them because their daughter and my daughter were in school bicultural. And she told, and I said, you know, at a Shiva, what do you say? You say to the person, tell me about the deceased. So she started to tell me about her mother. Her mother was in a concentration camp. And concentration camp as a young woman. And finally the Allies came and they opened up the gates and released the Holocaust prisoners. And they brought a giant truck full of loaves of bread. The people were starving. You can imagine. They ran, every prisoner of, God forbid, every, I don't want to say prisoner, every Holocaust survivor ran to the truck, herself included, and grabbed a loaf of bread. They hadn't eaten in years properly. She was about to take a bite into the loaf of bread. And something triggered in her that it might be the last day of Pesach. Remember, they had no idea. And so she put down the loaf of bread because Pesach, how could she eat a loaf of bread on Pesach? And everyone else grabbed, of course, the loaf. And that night, when they were taken like to the refugee camps, people died and people were in agony because they had eaten the bread and the stomach couldn't tolerate. But she, of course, survived because she didn't eat the bread. Now, any rabbi would have told her, eat the bread. It's pekuach nefesh. It's dangerous for you not to eat. Doesn't matter if it's Pesach. Yet something in her didn't allow her to eat a bread on Pesach, even though no one would have condemned, no Jewish law would have said you can't eat bread when you're a survivor of such atrocities and starvation and horrors. She didn't eat the bread. She didn't eat the bread, her daughter told me. She couldn't bring herself, and it was indeed the last day of Pesach.
That's an amazing story.
So why am I telling this story? Is we all said why we celebrate Pesach. Tradition, we can't wait to see Aunt Sadie, I haven't seen her all year. Bertha brings the best matzah balls. It's fun, it's exciting. I love family, I love singing, I love eating. I love doing a mitzvah, right? But there's also something very deep inside of us that comes out, even when we're coming out of a concentration camp and there's no official Seder, that taps into that powerful energy and freedom called Pesach, that allows us to go to a place we never thought we could go. Every year that energy is reenacted. The portals of that energy open up, the Kabbalah says, so we can tap into true freedom on Pesach, not on Hanukkah, not on Purim, on Pesach. That's the energy of Pesach. So I hope that when we sit down, and this is a while, to our Seder this year, I hope for myself and for all of us that we sit down with a whole new way of envisioning ourselves in the Pesach story. We are the heroines, remember. Not for us, there's no Pesach story. So this will be our last class till after Pesach because I'm marrying off my daughter, and then comes Pesach. And listen, it's my the highlight of my week is sitting with you because I learned so much from all of you and you give me such positive energy. I love it. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Mazel tov.
Yeah, mazel tov, Freida.
Very exciting.
And give me a bracha that everything with the wedding and the kala should go well.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen, amen, thank you. And we should all share each other's simchas. And I want to give you the traditional Pesach blessing. Chag kosher v'sameach. A kosher Pesach and a happy Pesach. Notice the two things. Not always is kosher happy and happy kosher. So Pesach has to be not only kosher, but happy. So when you spend $19.99 on one box of matzah, don't cry. My whole stock market account is going for my Pesach food, say, you know what, this is amazing. Because whatever I spend, God is going to give me back. And when the bottle of Chaim, which used to cost $1.99, but now Pesach, for some reason, it's $7.99.
What's that?
Be upset. Be upset. Don't be upset about the price gouging. But
Freida,
yes.
did you record this? Are we able to hear it again? Because you gave some things that I think I'd like to use at our Seder.
Wonderful, wonderful. Wow, that's a compliment.
Is it
Fred,
possible?
I'll talk to you later.